Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back. We have today another conversation with Chaim Noll, writer, essayist, and teacher who lives in Israel in the Negev desert. The topic of our conversation, the title is Hope for Israel and Hope for the World. But we chatted a little bit earlier about the result of the election here in the US, and we might start from this point. So, Chaim, thank you first of all for accepting the invitation. And second of all, what do you think about the Trump victory in the US?
As I told you already, the entire country here, I think 90% of all Israelis, whether left or right wing, with a sigh of relief, we took notice of the election result. It's not the question whether we all are fans of Donald Trump, but that the Democratic, especially Obama administration, came to an end. We had 12 years Obama administration. We had 8 years directly Obama, and then with the puppet Biden, another 4 years. And I must tell you that from the beginning on, from 1900 to 2009, when he gave the speech at the Cairo University and gave the outlines of his Near East policies that was planned. So he was at the beginning, 2009. It was completely wrong from the beginning on. What he said in the Cairo speech was a completely wrong approach to the problems of the Middle East. And this administration followed the outlines of the Cairo speech. It was the old pattern that the West is guilty and everything. That he talked about the long and the broad about the guilt of the West, but he didn't mention with only one word the inhuman, the anti-human conditions in the Arab countries, or the failures of Arab police. Not a word about that. So he took the entire blame of the problems in the Middle East on the West, and that was completely wrong from the beginning on. I mean, that is the mindset of these people who think that the West is guilty and to blame for everything that happens here, and the Arab countries are victims and didn't do anything wrong. This was what the undertone of the Cairo speech. And then we had 8 years in this sense. That means that Hamas and Hezbollah started a kind of a war of attrition against Israel by sending daily rockets and bombs and other flying objects into our territory. And when Israel reacted and fought it back 2009, 2012, 2014, it was always cut off. It was cancelled under pressure of the American administration. So the American administration and other powers, but I mean the American administration is the most influential here, made sure that these wars were not accomplished, that the mission was not accomplished, that in the end Hamas and Hezbollah could begin anew to bomb Israel all the time. So it was, I must tell you, when I remember that we live now under fire here for 15 years, we have to really, this goes on the account of the Obama and Biden administration, who didn't allow Israel to fight back effectively and to make an end to that and to destroy Hamas and Hezbollah. It was always, the outcome was always that in the end, Hamas and Hezbollah and then other powers that in this axis that Iran constructed Now we have the Houthi in Yemen and Iraqi militias sending rockets. We have rockets now from four or five fronts. So this is the outcome of the Democratic Party administration, 12 years here in the Middle East. There were those 4 years of Trump, who managed, with the help of his son-in-law mostly, the new relations with the Arab countries, with the Emirates. And it is very interesting to see that the Arab countries mean it more seriously in the moment to fight Hamas and Hezbollah than the West. I just wrote an article some days ago that was published in Europe about some facts that are obviously in the West not really known. And you have to read newspapers from India and Australia or places like that who report about this, that the Arab countries, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Bahrain, and these countries have made it impossible in their territories to all kinds of solidarity with the Palestinians. So it's regularly forbidden. It's forbidden in Saudi Arabia to speak up as it is usual on the American campus, for instance, or in the big cities in Europe, that there are protests for the Palestinian case. In the Arab countries, this is forbidden. Why? They say openly that they have not any use from the Palestinians. They had only to pay. Saudi Arabia and the Emirates paid billions of dollars in the Palestinian, invested in the Palestinian case without getting anything. And they say that they have to care about their own future. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia said that he is obliged to think about the future of his country. And they have the problem that they have a kind of a monoculture, only getting their income by oil, so that they have to find new ways to build up their country in a modern way, to build up industries and high tech and so on. And the partner for that in the Middle East is not the Palestinians, but Israel. So they changed sides completely. This is something what the American administration under Obama and Trump and Biden ignored, widely ignored. So for Trump, it's a good position. He has worked with these countries already, and they made this, Abraham Accord, and how it is called, that the Gulf countries have started even diplomatic relations with Israel and so on. That's not the main point. The main point is economy, of course, economic cooperation and also cooperation in security. And Saudi Arabia is, after all the time during this war, there was not a critical word, or barely, from Saudi Arabia. So they wait until the end of that war to restart the relations with Israel, and they let drop the Palestinian case, and they say openly that the young generation, for instance, in Saudi Arabia, has distanced itself from the Palestinian case because they know that it will not bring anything for them. And this is, I must say, absurd position that we have in the West. A lot of solidarity with the Palestinians, but not anymore in the Arab world. So the Arab countries give a good example how to solve the problem. They simply forbade any pro-Palestinian activities in their countries, and thus things like Amsterdam last week also cannot happen in Saudi Arabia. They can only happen in Europe or the United States.
Well, but we talk about solidarity, but the words have been turned upside down, same as the entire society, history, has been turned upside down, because I mean that a president from Obama onward can say stuff like the Cairo speech and other things is unacceptable in a society based on reality, and we are distancing ourselves from reality. And I mean, the West is distancing itself from reality more and more. You see, I don't know if you have heard of the case of a guy that in France was responsible for an attack at a synagogue with several deaths, several casualties, that now teaches in Canada in a university. Or Richardson, the same guy that on October 8th said that he was he was exhilarated, he was invigorated by October 7th, now teaches a class about Jewish thinking up to Zionism. I mean, the point is that we went through long time ago the line that divides madness from reality, and that's the problem we have in the West. You talk about countries where they have a common sense, because when we talk, and when you talk with any person who has historical knowledge and common sense, understands perfectly the difference between attacked and attacker. He doesn't cry like if somebody starts a war and doesn't want surrender and keeps hostages, then you cannot have solidarity with monsters. And I'm keeping aside the horror committed. The fact in Amsterdam, they prove the insanity that we are. I'm not afraid to use the word insanity, because they have to prove me that this is not insane. That in the Anne Frank city in Amsterdam, you can hunt Jews on the streets, and there is solidarity from the same people. In Italy, in Milan, a scandalous manifestation where a guy said we have to show solidarity to our friends, to our whatever he used for terms, our brothers in Amsterdam. And there is no reaction from politics. There is almost no reaction. There are no arrests. This is madness. Because 4 years ago, if you were outside, I talk about Italy, without a damn thing on your face, they would throw you to jail. Now you can chant anti-Semitic, not just, I mean, you can call for genocide, the real genocide, not the invented genocide. And
the real, they call for genocide,
But they invert the term, in an inverted world, they say that they want to rob the Jews even of the deepest injuries that they sustained in history. They want to take the term genocide, put it upside down, and use against those who suffered from it. What is this if not madness?
Yeah, it's strange, and let's say the experiences of young Israelis, for instance, are that they could travel. We have now more than 1 year of war with Palestinian organizations. I mean, these people are Palestinians, so-called Palestinians, Arabs, but you could travel safely all the time to Dubai, for instance, from Tel Aviv. Many people have done. I was astonished. I was really astonished to hear that many people around here made trips to Abu Dhabi during the war, where you should think that in these countries it's dangerous. No, nothing happened there against Israeli people. But in Europe, you can't cross the street anymore as an Israeli soccer fan without causing reactions like that. And I mean, it has reached a point of absurdity that I believe that it can only switch. So I think that the result of the American elections, not only that Trump won with such a broad margin, with so much many more votes than Harris got, also the Senate went to the Republican Party, and probably the House of Representatives.
The House as well.
Yeah,
Everything.
is or has already happened. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
I haven't looked at the papers today. Yeah,
Yes.
so it was, I must say, a crushing defeat for the Democratic Party, and this is a result. I think that many people in the United States start to understand that this kind of madness that these people have. During all the time, I mean, all the period, it was even an increase of madness. If this is possible, you couldn't imagine. We had the wokeness movement and all this stuff in the United States. You experienced a kind of, you called it distancing themselves from reality. Yes, it was a kind of over the top and completely incapable to understand and not, of course, not to solve the problems that the West really has. I mean, there is a lot of problems we have to face, but nothing of that was in the program of the Democratic Party. They were busy with strange things. No one could understand in the end what they really wanted. So the question of a third gender or things like that are not the urgent problems the Western society has at the moment. There are other problems, but they were busy all the time with things like that. And the universities, the humanities. I mean, you wrote a book about this, the empty campus.
Yes.
I wrote a review about it. You may remember some years ago for the Jüdische Rundschau in Europe. It was empty at the time, but now it is filled. There is no emptiness in history. There is no emptiness. When there is an empty room, people will come and fill it, and this has happened. So the empty campus is replenished again with powers that don't help. So with anti-Western people who want to destroy it. I mean, they have destroyed a lot. You can see that they destroyed buildings, but also they destroyed a lot of the atmosphere, of the credit of these universities. This will have repercussions for the academic situation in the United States. I'm quite sure that the universities have to change their attitude, also because of money. There was one case, I don't know whether you know about it in the United States, that an alumnus of the Columbia University, who had the intention to give the Columbia University 260 millions of US dollars as a donation, is a very old man, and he knows that he will not live a long time. He changed his mind when he saw these protests at the campus of the Columbia University, and took the money and sent it to the Bar Ilan University in Tel Aviv. So this is a case where I see that the American universities lived for many decades. I will not say, I wouldn't say mainly, but with the crucial amount of Jewish donors. So they got billions of Jewish donors. Many of these people will rethink that now, and will think about the question whether they will give their money further to Columbia or Harvard or those universities. So I think that there has happened something that you will feel in the United States, and the new administration will also, I guess, will make some, will take some measures in this sense, that the American universities have to change their ways. That cannot go on like that.
Well, it's a big situation with the university in the United States because the landscape is extremely complex between state university, private university, bigger Ivy League, etc. But definitely, there is. I completely agree with you. The point is that universities cannot keep going through this way. But in my book, but also in my life, I always said that paradoxically, and I've been proved right now, universities have turned from allies, from places of knowledge, to places that are against knowledge,
Yeah,
against historical knowledge, against facts.
right,
But of course, with differences, because there are
right.
still engineers and physicists that still
Yeah.
are still
They
attached.
are so yeah. They destroy knowledge and are anti-spiritual and anti-intellectual. So and you could see it. I mean, for a long time it was not really clear what happens, but now this war has laid open a lot of problems also in the Western countries, and I think that you could see that violence, brutality, and so things like that came to the campus, and this has nothing to has no place in the academics usually. So it was interesting that that hearing in the Congress when Mrs. Stefanik, who is now who will now be appointed UN ambassador in the new administration, when she questioned the presidents of 3 universities, and she did very well. And what the outcome was that these 3 ladies had no idea what a university is and how to protect academic spirituality. I mean, they only talk about academic freedom to justify violence and brutality. It was an absurd point, and I cannot imagine that the American universities go that way, because you are dependent on them. These are the places where the scientific research, the technology edge that the West needs in the confrontation with Islam. The main point also what we see here now in this war is technology. So that is a matter of academic work. So that the universities have to be reformed in a way that they can provide Western society in future with the knowledge we need to protect ourselves, to are victorious in the wars that we have to fight. I mean, we have learned here in the last year that you cannot endlessly avoid war. So there is a certain point when you have to go into war. You cannot procrastinate it anymore, or postpone, as we have also tried to postpone the war again and again. But at a certain point, it happens. And then the West must be strong enough to fight. And this is the point where also academia has a great work to do. And that's the problem when I see how the universities are in decline in the United States. We all hope this will this can stop. This process can be stopped, and they can reform and become places of academic research and work again, and not of spectacular events with violence and so on, as we have seen. There was a big loss of reputation, I think, also for the American society, what happened there on the campus.
But because knowledge is not the aim, conformity is. Even the 3 presidents of Harvard, UPenn, and MIT during the congressional hearing, their words were absurd, not just because they said that it depends on the context, but because they couldn't realize that if the same chanting against the Jews would have been against any other group, Any other group that
Yeah.
they exalt and love, that would have been, they would have intervened with the strongest possible way. This is, and now there is one of the listener here that is pointing out that in Italy, in Cagliari, there was an Israeli professor, Alex Bronstein, that he had to give a lecture at the university, and the students made, they made a protest. I don't know what they did to avoid that he would talk. So it is clear, but it was clear already many years ago. I mean, Italy has been extremely surprising for me in the recent years, probably because I don't live there anymore since, I don't know, 30, 35 years. But they're surprising me every day more. They surprise me with Corona, let themselves be arrested, all the nonsense they did. But they are surprising now because it sounds paradoxical, but Italians right now are more anti-Semitic as they were in the 20s under fascism. Under fascism, there were Italians that protected Jews. Now I don't know what happened to these people. I mean, I wish I would go on a tour of Italy and see what kind of insanity they're breathing. And already at the book fair in Turin a few years ago, in 2008 or 9, something like that, I wrote an article back then. They boycotted Israel because Israel was the guest of honor, and the Israeli writers, because of all the usual nonsense, without realizing that the people were boycotting were basically on their side. There were most people, there were pseudo liberal people with or I
Of
mean,
course, yeah,
critical of the Israel.
yeah, it's Israeli left, yeah, that is boycotted. But
The clear point here, it's not about Israel; it's about the Jews.
It's
Because
about the Jews.
they don't ask a Jew, are you in favor of your government policies or not? They don't ask that question. It's, are you a Jew? Then. You see, it's clear that we are talking anti-Semitism here. It's absolutely clear, except for the mainstream media, except for the politics, except for a world that is losing its senses.
Yeah, it's like that. So we had the deepest point during these months of war, I think, all over the world. You can hear you.
No, I was just looking.
Okay.
Yeah,
it was a hard time. I agree with you. And wherever you came, the situation was difficult, not only here. So, but the point we talk about today is that when Israel is in a hopeful position, it will help all around the world. That's what I think, that the victory it's not completed, not really accomplished at the moment, but it's visible already that this will change the game completely. So the other side has tried with the worldwide propaganda campaign and with a lot of success, as we just talked about, with a lot of success in the Western countries. But in the end, they will lose on a wide scale. They will lose the war, and they will these militias will be destroyed. And we talked about the change in the Arab countries, that the Arab countries do not support anymore this kind of anti-Western politics. Countries like Saudi Arabia or also Egypt are interested in the cooperation with the Western countries more and more than they have been before. And they don't support this kind of madness anymore, as Iran represents, with the confrontation, military confrontation. I think in the end, Iran will lose widely. Not only, I mean, they have lost already a lot. They lost their air defense and a lot of their military capacities that the Israeli army has destroyed. They lost their militias. They lost a lot of money. In the end, I think the situation will be clear that it's not worth while to do what Hamas started, and not only here but worldwide. It was a worldwide campaign against the Jews, in well prepared over many years. They sneaked into the American universities long before. I mean, the guy you mentioned who was a terrorist, killing people, and is now in a Canadian university. I think there are many cases like that. I'm really astonished to see how many anti-Israeli and openly anti-Israeli and anti-Semitic people are in the American universities in teaching positions. But that is a matter of course that you. So I think these things, this situation, it's difficult to change, but it will start now. We had a complete change here in Israel. I mean, the situation here in Israel was also completely different from the situation now. When we came to Israel, the Israeli left was in power here, and the left parties had the majority in the parliament with some Arab votes. Together, they could determine Israeli politics. But now the situation is here in Israel like that the left is so weak that they have problems to be the left parties will not even go over the threshold to come into the parliament. So they had to unite the two left parties. And but they elected a new chairman who is a former general, and he is a left-wing guy, and he's a leftist general, but he's still a general, and he has not done nothing against this war, although he is chairman of the United Left now. So it is a completely changed left. The left has changed to survive. If they would really demand now to stop the war and all that, no one would give their vote. So that's why they know they have to change after they lost all their power here. I see that process also coming in the United States and Europe. I think that the election result of this presidential and Congress election that was together is clear enough that there is a change in the mindset of the majority of the American society, that people understand that the way it went the last 15 years, it cannot continue.
Yes, but you see, this is something that I watch with some worry. That I mean, first of all, the topic of the left. Everywhere from the US to Europe, I hear people say, "Oh, the left, the left, the left." Okay, but same as you were born in a communist country and you have read Karl Marx. Now, I challenge every single person, one of the geniuses that are with this movement, to find me one topic that to them is relevant, that it's also in the volumes of Marx. One single topic among many, many, many volumes. So how can we call this the left when every point that was made by Marx it's absolutely irrelevant for them. They never talk about the workers, the key
No,
element.
no. The workers have voted for Trump. That's
Yes.
a funny situation. They found out, the Democratic Party found out already that the workers have voted for Trump and not for the left.
So do you see the point then? I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
see, of course.
the,
Yeah.
the Mormons, they say we are Christians, but they believe in a different Christ. They say, when you say they are not Christian, they say, but in our name there is the name Christ. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. I can have in my name Sergio is blonde with green eyes, but that doesn't make me blonde with green eyes. It is this point that I challenge the most, that it's
Yeah.
used or the left. Where is the left? I don't hear
Right.
people.
Yeah, I wrote about this. Yeah, in case of the Israeli left, that the Israeli left has not taken they did nothing. What usually what the left had to do, usually for let's say social problems. We have a lot of social problems here in Israel. We have inflation, the prices go. Nothing. The left cared nothing about these topics that are the classical left positions and the left tasks. I agree with you that they abandoned that for phantasmas and strange ideas like a third gender or something, but nothing of the real tasks of the left. They didn't face that. It's true. I agree with you that is the problem in all Western countries, I guess. And I mean, we need a left in the Western society.
Yes.
The left is important. There have to be people who care for the social weak groups and who make clear that there is education for everyone and that there is a kind of social basics and so on. But the left has abandoned this completely. We need them, but they are not here. You are right. Yeah, and they get the result now with this election that people say we don't need them anymore. We don't need these people.
But the point is that, to me, I make the point that they are an illegitimate left. Look, I can make thousands of examples, but the recent one, of which there is, of course, no mention in the mainstream media, is that now in America is happening something. There are places, it's difficult because you have to explain a little bit about the American situation, but there are places called the trailer parks where people that live on social security or minimum income could still have, a trailer that looks like a house, and they have services, electricity. It's very cheap for them to live there. In some parts, in some states, it's because of poverty. It's at least a solution to give some dignity to these people. They have some
that's what the left has to care about.
Exactly. But what is happening is that now the big money, the big groups like BlackRock and others, because they have invested resources in rental, and rent in the US is like in all Western world, is extremely high. Property has become unreachable for the new generations. Now they are attacking even these trailer parks, buying these trailer parks and increasing the rent, the what people pay to be there, and forcing some of these people to go live on the street or in shelters. No one, Bernie Sanders, is more concerned about what happens 6,000 miles away than he's concerned about what happened in here. I mean, Bernie Sanders is from Vermont. In Vermont, they have a high per capita. But this is what we are missing. We are missing some people. And there, so if you talk, for you, the problem is an invented people like the Palestinians, an invented people. I mean, Chaim, we are talking here, the situation is so grotesque. Again, I ask one of these geniuses. We have some today, even here. There is a person saying, no, the group, of course, this person meant the Jews, is stealing or occupying a land. See, they don't open a freaking book except for Pape, this revisionist
Yeah.
people. Yes, but you see, they nourish themselves
Mm.
only on one side of the spectrum, like in a
Mm.
cow. If you talk to a
Mm.
Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon, they are like that, but they are a minority in society. This
Mm.
is mainstream now, this madness, this inability
Mm.
to take a friggin' book and open it.
Yeah.
Oh, it is so difficult. It's such a
Yeah.
situation. You don't believe it if you don't live in it.
Hmm. People had to understand. I mean, this took some time that the so-called left is more and more not power helpful for the to solve the problems, social issues, and so on in the West, but a power of destruction. That they really what they do is to distract what the structures of the Western society. There is a lot of self-hatred, strange phenomenon that people, when they are economically secure, start hating their own situation and the country that provided them with all that. There's a lot of Western self-hatred involved, for instance, in the Palestinian issue. Everybody knows that the Palestinians are a purely destructive power. There is nothing else. They have
Everybody
nothing.
knows.
They have. I mean, it became visible now during the last year. We have to wait now for some time until people understand what has happened. But they have seen that from this side only came terror, destruction, violence, and that we have to keep these people at bay when we want to live in peace and freedom in Western society. The problem is that there is, as I said, a lot of hatred of people in the West against their own countries, their own system, their own economical situation, and so on. That is helpful for those people who want to destroy. But I think that many people have understood since October 7 that there is a big danger involved for everyone. So when we let these people further succeed within the Western society, as it happened, for instance, in Europe, where they could spread and gain influence in all places, in the big cities and universities, in the schoolyards of the elementary schools already. Muslim violence is prevailing, so that people understand how dangerous it is in their own country. So they have considered the situation here in the Near East far from their own lives, but many people, I think, understood. So as far as I know from Germany, that there are much more people who understand now why we have to fight against these powers, why we have to confront a Muslim invasion of all kind, whether it's within Western societies or here at the borders of Israel. I think many people understood, much more people than it have been.
Well, but those people are not in the mainstream media, are not in politics, and are
No.
mostly not in academia. And those are the three
No,
most
that's it's a slow process. So but I must tell you, so my experience in Europe is that even in the mainstream media, I could publish recently in the very influential Neue Zürcher Zeitung, in
Yes.
Zurich. And they gave me the possibility to write about the Palestinian conflict in a way that was impossible 5 years ago. So I could write about the I wrote about that the Palestinian state is out of discussion at the moment, that no person of no sane person will at the moment plead for a Palestinian state. The Palestinian state will become a terror state, as we have seen in Gaza. So they gave me one page in this very influential European newspaper to write about that. So there was a heavy reaction from, there were 300 letters that day to the editors. Half of them took my side. That was the first surprise for me. Half of these 300, and that's what I want to say, is that the paper took the risk to publish that. It would have been impossible 5 years or 3 years ago, 10 years ago. And I remember all the time that you couldn't talk about this. The Palestinian state was like a holy cow, something that was not to touch, that was a given axiom it was a kind of doctrinary fixation in the Western society that there has to be a Palestinian state, and that you now can say it's not necessary and doesn't make any sense to found such a state. And I find myself in a strange, let's say, next to the Arab countries who say the same in the meantime. So Saudi Arabia also gives to understand that they don't care anymore about this entire project of a Palestinian state. They don't think that it is necessary and it makes any sense. Only the left in the West is still in favor of a Palestinian state. And I mean that I think that many people will understand that it is something absurd when the Arab countries don't favor a Palestinian state anymore, and only the left in the West. So what does it mean? What do they really want? What do they really mean? I think what they mean is destruction. It's destruction of Western structures. These are people who want to damage the West and destroy the. I mean, there is a lot of things to criticize. We know that, and I'm a critical person myself, but we enjoy life in freedom and security as it has been rarely ever been in history. And this is at risk to be destroyed from within, from people who use the Palestinian state and the Palestinian issue as a pretext to really what they want is to damage the West. That's my impression. They use it as a pretext, and what they want is to give themselves some power within the Western society to push their own issues. So that's why, I mean, this can be stopped. The Western societies will find ways to get rid of that. I'm not sure this will prevail. So I think the climax was reached now, and as you see with the elections in the United States, I think that another administration will handle that differently, and the same happens in European countries where the left parties lose more and more their ground and their power. So altogether, I think we can really feel some hope. So let's come back to the point where we started. So I think it was really at stake when this war started. Also, here many people became. No, for us it was clear that we had to win. That there was no other possibility. So the entire existence was at stake, and people here were clear, determined to win that war, and we did. And I think so can the West win a lot of ground again that was lost to anti-Western powers and anti-Western influence. I think we will see that. Let's see what will happen during the next 2 years when there is another administration in the United States. I mean, it was such a clear result. Yeah, we have witnessed a lot of elections now. I think the last election when both houses and the president went to the Republican Party was Bush. Is it right? The younger Bush. I think at the beginning he also had, but that's long ago. So in the years in between, it was very unclear, mostly the Senate against the president or something, but that we have such a clear result that the majority of the Americans gave to understand they want to get rid of that absurd developments of the last years we talked about, and want to come back to their own national American interests. It's the same what the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia says, that he says, I have to care about the future of my country, not of the Palestinian state. So the Palestinian state, the Palestinians have to do, but they don't do anything, by the way. There is nothing, there is no sign of any activities to build up a state. That's an absurd situation, that there are anti-Western people within the Western society using that phantasma that has no ground anywhere as a tool of their anti-Western activities.
Yes, but I mean, we have a lot of topics in here because I mean, the problem once again is cultural, is the lack of reading, and the fact that you have an apparatus, the culture industry, that works against the individual to understand basic points. For example, the point of a state applied to the Arab world is a unicorn, because their society did not evolve toward the concept of state as the Western society did. But for example, I go back to topic like that are also pointed by people that have nothing. They have nothing in their mind. They don't. I'm not sure they have a mind. And they repeat words like, again, we already mentioned occupation, and they also talk about colonization, which in US campuses is a big one, it's a number one topic, without understanding that by putting themselves on the side of Hamas and of a certain of Islam, they're putting themselves on the side of the strongest colonizer ideology that human history has ever seen. These people are unable to even go back once again, the books, that the entire North Africa was not Arabic, for the simple reason that Arabs comes from the Arabic Peninsula. I mean, we have to talk to these people like you talk to a 10 years old in school, and they still do not get stuff that they could check today by hitting their fingers on the keyboard. You talk to a level of idiocy that it's beyond idiocy, which means there are people that are blinded by rage. Because, I mean, they never, I don't know, I make the example of Italy because originally I'm from Italy, but in Italy, they don't even remember that St. Augustine, which Italy claimed to be a Catholic land, was from North Africa. It was there. They don't know. And they think they don't know. They know nothing about the Coptic Egyptians, that they were basically thrown out of Egypt. They know nothing, but they talk about bad Western colonizers, bad, really bad. How can you address a situation where you have morons that are supported by so-called higher education institutions, and they are blinded. It's a situation that reminds a lot the situation in Germany in the 30s, where some idiots came up, one of them a Nobel Prize for physics, with the idea of the Jewish physics. I mean, I would say thank you that he did that, because by doing that, he avoided that the Nazis could get the atomic bomb first.
Right, yeah. Yeah, of course.
That's a good
They
part.
all went to the United States, yeah.
Exactly.
Luckily, happily, they
Even
all
the
went to the United
theoretical
States.
background, if you don't teach modern physics, then you are unable, now we go into but Heisenberg was very well aware of this, even if he was a Nazi, but he understood that you cannot just dismiss physics because it was written by a Jew. That's nonsense. But we are in a very similar situation where facts, because if you could do that in the 30s to physics, of course you can do that to history, which is the most, fluid, let's use a modern term, of the scholarships. And that's what we face right now. No matter how much, it doesn't matter how many facts you put in front of these people. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. No, and it makes no sense to talk to them at all. So that more and more I have to understand. So I tell you that during that war, I came to the point, after all what happened, beginning with October 7th, and then all the year, more than a year it is now, people who still tell me about that Israel is an aggressor and so on, I silently sort them out. I know that it's not necessary to talk to them anymore, that these people don't want to understand. It's not that they can't understand, that there is not information enough, or that the situation wasn't clear enough, but there are people who don't want to understand and who don't want to see how dangerous the situation is already. So then you, I think, waste your time if you talk to them and try to discuss. I don't do that anymore. So there must be a certain level. I mean, we talked about physics now. You cannot talk to a completely ignoramus about the relativity theory or something. There must be a certain level of knowledge and education and goodwill. And if this is not given, so it doesn't make any sense to talk to these people.
But it worries me, Chaim. It worries me a lot, because these people then might have roles in society, and given the situation, and they, in any case, they make themselves, multiplier. That's what the Germans use, multiplier of evil, of hate, of everything that is dark. I mean, we talked many times about Bonhoeffer. Stupidity is the best ally of evil. And, today they do that by claiming some moral superiority that they don't have. I don't, like same as you, I've been interested in Jewish history. Well, you clearly more, but I don't recall, I don't know in human history the point where they claimed a moral superiority. Not religious, because of course in a religion the clash of religions was clear, because they said my religion is morally superior, your religion is morally superior. But religions have one key element that Galilei pointed out to us: they are not provable. You can prove the fact. You can, for example, you can easily prove that the Quran is a bunch of idiocies. It's very easy to prove. But you cannot prove the non-existence of a supreme being, etc. So you can say my supreme being, but you have to start from a moral position. And these people do not have a moral position, because when you are faced with an attack where there is rape, assassination, indiscriminate killing, and you say that these people are the good people, something is wrong with you. And this multiplies itself in society, creating ripples of you say it's I understand, but as educator, you must be worried about this. I deeply worried, because this type of idiocy always brings bigger catastrophes. It has always happened like this in history. There is even a thing by a famous Latin poet saying, God, before destroying if God wants to destroy some people, then makes them first mad. And that's what we are experiencing this in our time.
Yeah, it's a problem for the Western societies to build up strength to protect themselves. We have witnessed here in Israel how this works. So we went into that war deeply divided, and Israeli society was also in a rather chaotic situation. But as strange as it may sound, the war united the country and brought us to census all together. We all came to census. I mean, we all in Western countries have the problem of too high flying ambitions and ideas that are not really doable anymore. So that's a general problem. I think that we have to come back to reality in certain situations, and we did here. So the war brought us back to reality, to what the real situation is, that we are threatened, that we are in danger, that are complete. The Western society as such is endangered by enemies that mean that want to destroy it. And I think this we had to learn. And at the moment that many Americans or European people who have been very lofty spheres during the last years, people were busy with, I don't know what strange things, with a lot of things over the top. We mentioned some of already, but not with the real situation as it is. And I think that such a war and what we experienced here and what you experience in the Western countries with the anti-Western powers, anti-Western activities growing, so that brings us to census that we know we have to defend what we have, and we cannot take it for granted.
Yes, I agree. But once again, when you experience the total subversion of reality, this has always political consequences. The ancient people used to call that karma, and I don't want to be part of the karma of these people, because it's something.
The election result in the United States is karma already. That is karma already. And I mean, this is. I told you in the beginning that whether you are a fan of Trump or not, but alone to see that these people who believed they knew it all and they had everything under control had to. Went into such a crushing defeat. I mean, when you observed what they suggested themselves about the electability of Kamala Harris and so on, they were so certain that they at least would be a result. But it was a crushing defeat. So in the end, so we have to think about what that means. That this. Losing the connection to reality doesn't bring you to the point. So the Western left will see that people go back to rather sober politicians who face the real problems, and that's why I think that when we talk about hope, that Israel's victory in this war is a sign of hope, but the same is with the American election result. In my eyes, it's a sign of hope. And you know that I was always in our dialogues here the optimistic voice. You remember that from former sessions, and I feel confirmed. So with the developments of the last month. So in my eyes, there is the silver stripe. I don't know whether you saw it say it in English. The same the silver already visible, and the American election result is a practical win for Israel. Of course, first of all, that we will not be our efforts will not be thwarted anymore by the American administration when we have to win the war here. So that's for us, but it's more. It's also a hope for the Western societies that things will change. And I'm quite sure that that's what I know from history, that when you exaggerate in one direction, there will be the pendulum will swing back. And that's what happens now. And we can witness that, I'm quite sure.
But usually with a lot of blood. This is the part that I'm concerned. Of course, America showed, but okay, here's the thing. The Democratic Party has done above and beyond. They've reached levels that they do not fit with the American mentality, you know. But not just the Democratic Party. As I would like to stress out, it's a part of society that has lost its mind and believe to be able to teach others what they don't know. And again, they use these empty words, and through empty labels, they can justify everything. They think they can justify. Of course, usually there are people with lower IQ, with lower position. But as the audition of the three presidents showed us, people with lower IQ today can become Harvard president. People with graduate. You know, she has resigned from her position, Claudine Gay.
Yeah.
But she has been proved that she plagiarized the few things she wrote.
Yeah.
But she's still at Harvard. Communication is completely broken for several reasons. We cannot unify anymore with the meaning of words. And that's really, it's like we speak different languages. It's like you speak with someone, with a Martian, not anymore with the person here. You have seen, for example, during the campaign, the media, the last day, the day of the election, for example, the media, especially CNN, has been and MSNBC, but that goes without saying, has been absolutely insane. The entire day, when they were talking about Kamala Harris, because you had to say Kamala Harris. If you say just Kamala, you're racist. See these people to what level they are, to what level, but they don't see this level of derangement. And they were talking all day about Mrs. Harris only as the greatest, smartest, best person. And when they talk about Trump, always as the last person. This is not news anymore. This is not discourse anymore.
No, it's true. Yeah, we have the Western society, the academics are in decline, and education is in decline, and all that. But nevertheless, I see hope. So as we witnessed here in Israel, that in the moment when really the existence of the entity is at stake, as it was here, we all felt it like that. We knew that the existence of this country was at stake, and then the society could reform and find back to cooperation and solidarity in a way we hadn't expected before. So if the times are hard enough, people get reasonable again. So that is my feeling, that a lot of this insanity and craziness that we talked about is a result of too much security. Maybe they feel too secure. I mean, also the United States will have to face tough situations with China and so on. There is a big problems looming with the powers that are really that want to test the Americans, whether they are capable to defend what they have, and as we were tested here. So I see that also for you coming, and I'm quite happy that in this situation is not some group of fantasts and losers in the crucial positions, and we can hope that a new administration will act accordingly and responsibly. To there is a lot ahead, I think. Dark times ahead, I would say. So the West has to be capable to fight, to wage war and things like that. That it will turn out soon. There are real challenges, and I'm very happy at the moment that for the next 4 years we can be sure that not people will rule the United States who have some self-destructing or self-hating tendencies or something, and will weaken the efforts to defend ourselves. That's what happened here. These people were pushed aside. The left was pushed aside in the moment of war. They lost completely its relevance. And they didn't even say anything anymore. I told you they elected this general as a chairman of the United Left. The two left parties, Avoda and Meretz, had to unite to have a chance at all. So otherwise, I wouldn't have come into the next parliament. So, and they choose that general, who, although he's a left-wing man, and that's well known, he's a real military person, and he proved it on October 7th. He was a man who, with his pistol, went into the battle as a man of 60-something and fought personally. He went with his private car to the kibbutzim in the south and found some soldiers gathered. He went with his general uniform with all his signs and so on, and he's a very brave man, a little bit, let's say, in his political views, one-sided, but it's a complete change to the times before, because this man is, of course, a military person and is connected with the other military people with whom he has worked, and will not betray his country as other left people do. So that is a complete change that is out of discussion. So my grandsons told me about politics. There were only jokes when we were all together there in the army, left and right, and what you want, religious, non-religious, and it was only joked about these things. There were no political discussions or confrontations. So the moment of war was completely pushed aside. And I think this can happen also in other countries. So that is all I can tell you here from my Israeli experience, that society finds back to its strength and can muster its hidden qualities and so on. The moment, and the left was pushed aside. That happened here. So that is what I have to say. You know that I always come to a optimistic conclusion, and the entire setting today was in this way. And I think you cannot oppose when I say that the election result in the United States prove what I want to say.
Yes, but because people have been pushed to the corner. And don't forget, you're talking about America. The same thing, it's not possible, not even thinkable in Europe. America is a country founded on liberty, founded on certain values, the value of truth, the value of honesty. Then, okay, the politics can, of course, politics is a derangement from those things. But in America, the core Americans, they showed at the election, there was a moment in Pennsylvania, which is a swing state, where the Amish, the people that...
Yeah, I read about it, yeah.
It was beautiful to see that the Amish, they forced the Amish not to be able to deal anymore with the situation. It reminded me the scene in the Lord of the Rings when the trees uproot themselves to go fight against Saruman, It was amazing. But that's the core of America. But you have also to see the core of America you don't find in Massachusetts, you don't find in certain areas, although the news, of course, doesn't show many things. Here in New Jersey, for example, some counties, they moved from blue to purple. They didn't report on that. That's something that is not reported, even if New Jersey keeps being, because, the word moron was invented in New Jersey, so there must be a reason for that. Keeps being blue right now, but all the areas of the country, they've showed moral integrity. They've showed that they cannot deal anymore with the situation that has been brought by, as you say, the 12 years of the Obama administration. I was in Grant Park in 2008 when Obama was elected. I was there. First of all, I could not avoid to notice that when Obama spoke, it was president-elect. It was not even president. I remember distinctly, I was like, 600 feet away. On the stage, there was glass against, it was from against, guns, from one side and the other, and also on the bottom. Then I remember the scene of Trump when he spoke, and for
the ballot,
he wasn't killed. But I was there. I remember that moment, and we all believed, of course, because the big liar, was lying about everything, and you didn't know him. We believed that it was going to represent a better times for the United States, and instead, this man alone and this administration, they brought back racism inside American society. And Americans were tired of all of this. This result, it's historical.
Obviously, it is.
But it's not caught, because you see there are some people that they are starting a counter-offensive on the media, once again, in academia. I can tell you there is a counter-offensive.
But these people are also in what I have experienced in my lifetime, they are opportunistic people. So they change with the situation, and when the situation changes dramatically, I think there are no heroes. So we will see a lot of strange. They will give up positions. We see it here with the Israeli left. The Israeli left gave up a lot of its exaggerated positions and things of the last years, in the moment of that this majority gave them to understand that they are pushed aside, that are not relevant anymore. And I think let us wait what will happen in the United States during the next 2 years. And I think there will also be, I think we have witnessed the climax of that, or the deepest point, better said, concerning anti-Semitism and so on. But I'm sure it can go. It can only go better now for the next years. I'm quite hopeful. You know that I was always hopeful.
But on this, Chaim, I have to agree with you. We dodged the bullet because people, once again, we are unable to contextualize things. We are completely unable today. I mean, most people. And we forget that even the Ukrainian crisis started after remarks made by Kamala Harris, let's say, because we don't want to be racist, Kamala Harris at the Munich Peace Conference. All these things are not thematized. There is no discourse about this.
They have caused a lot of damage. Yeah, they caused.
My fear was that with our election, we would have been in a third world war. That was my honest fear.
It would have been catastrophic. I agree with you, and I think many people thought like that. And so let's hope. I must come to the end now, so I have some, but I'm happy that we talked, because we had a lot of sessions before when the situation was not that hopeful as it is now in my eyes.
Definitely,
we are clearly here about to win this war. I mean, the question is how far it will go. Will we succeed even in destroying the military power of Iran? We did a lot, I think, with this only one action Israel did until now, but it was so successful, obviously. So although the army is a little bit covering up everything, we now learn by and by that they obviously destroyed in these few hours most of the Iranian capacity, at least the entire air defense system and so on. And you see there is no answer from them. They have tried twice, and I was 2 times here in my studio that is in union with the bomb shelter of our house also, and we have sitting here, my wife and me, at nightly hours, a little bit. We didn't know how this would turn out, but it was incredibly successful, I must say. Also the Israeli military action, completely. So we can have hope now, and the result in the United States confirms that is we are not lost. We are not lost. So we have some hope and some future. I will finish with that, and I'm happy that we can finish this way today without feeling like people who dream of something. Now it became reality. What happened in the United States, I mean, you are right, it's a historic result with all the propaganda that was they tried everything as they tried everything here with Israel. It was the same. They did what they could, but in the end we are stronger.
The funniest part, and after that I'll let you go, was that they were claiming in the mainstream media that the Jews were all or a large part of the Jews for Trump. Then there's a guy in New York who went to Brooklyn and asked the Jews there. He couldn't even find one. You know, they claimed that they were all for Harris, you know, but they were in reality all for Trump, which makes sense. And there was a beautiful part of the interview when he asked, but why you are not for Kamala Harris? And this guy said, because I'm not stupid.
Right. I mean, as a Jew, you must be stupid to vote for these people. Okay, right. No, we are not stupid. It seems to be that the stupidity would triumph in the world, and that's the problem generally we have in the West. So we have to trust in the power of intelligence and knowledge. And you're right. No, it's we are not stupid, and we can be happy about this. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Chaim.
Very nice. It was very nice to see you. Yeah. All the best. Bye-bye.
You too. Shalom.